Good afternoon. Well, as I said in my last note, we're almost there. And of course, as always in these situations, some of us have experienced a fair number of years with it, that things get interesting, both from the Gulf Stream standpoint and from the weather standpoint. So let's start off with the Gulf Stream. We've been living with a series of interesting conditions this spring in the Gulf Stream. And in particular, there's been very rapid change. And very rapid, by very rapid, I mean on timescales of 3 to 4 days, which of course is a timescale that's important to us as we head down for Bermuda. Number one. And number two, important to us because very often, a 3 or 4 day time frame may be cloud cover. We may not be able to get a good visual image of what's going on. So when we go back to something like the 15th of May, for example, you can see that the north wall of the Gulf Stream, this line right in here, fairly well defined, thankfully. The white, of course, is cloud. And remember, these images I'm going to show you are all from Rutgers, and currently what's being offered, for the most part, has no cloud correction. So there is an occasion in this that what you look at for a nice mark edge may be smeared by the presence of clouds. On the 15th of May, we're beginning to see something of a meander develop along in here. Prior to this, it was pretty much east-west. You can go back and look at our first notes and get a look at that. But here you are, 15 May. We go to 21 May, hardly a week off, and that feature that started out to the west of the rum line, instead of migrating in a nice orderly fashion, as we might with a bullwhip or something like it, a piece of line, instead was more or less in place and just deepened. But deepened fairly significantly in less than a week. Here we go now to the 9th of June, and my gosh, that feature has really deepened, and what's going on to the east of the line is getting to be very interesting. I don't know that it really wants to be quite so interesting. It looks very much like a breaking wave. Now remember, anytime you see a lot of warm water showing up here, there are some currents going to be associated with it. Some amount of flow will be associated with it. Probably nothing like you're going to see in the stream, but still something to consider if you're moving down across the shelf. You may run into a set or a drift associated with this parcel of warm water. June 9. Now, mind you, if anybody was looking, the next few days as we go along, clouds. So here we are now, the 14th, and the meander has moved very nicely off to the east, okay? And where before, if we followed the rum line right down, coming down from Newport to Bermuda, you would be running into some adverse current here. The flow in the north wall, remember, goes something like that, okay? By the 14th or so, that piece of the meander has moved a little bit further towards Europe. And now the rum line is crossing the trough of the meander, the trough of this meander, with currents more or less east-west right across here. The feature to the east is still pretty spectacular and sure as hell looks like a breaking wave. Here we go now to the 16th, just a couple of days ago. And again, if you look, compare the two, slight change in form, but the feature has moved to the east. Now when we come down the line, the north wall is crossing the rum line more or less from northwest to southeast. And of course, you got favorable currents carrying you down that way before they turn and start going unfavorable up on this side. And of course, yesterday we had clouds. and that were carried out from the day before, and didn't see anything, but we were very lucky this morning to get another image. But check this. This is the 16th. This is the 18th. 2 days change, and look at the change in form of the meander. Now, we got one more day to go. Is this thing really going to flatten out on us? Going to mean something in terms of optimum routing. You know, before, if we were coming down in this situation, if we entered a little bit to the west, we get a nice boost down the line. Max currents are in this area is probably on the order of 5 knots or so. But here, the 18th, things aren't looking quite as nice in terms of a boost. You're going to be coming down across the current, more or less straight on, right angle corner. Now, those of you that have followed me over the years know that I really favor the altimetry-based model of circulation. And this is the model for the 18th. Also remember that this is a couple of days, quote, old. It really is applied or should be properly applied to the conditions observed on the 16th. You need 2 days for data analysis. So it's a couple of days off, even though we picked it up this morning. And it shows a very similar structure in terms of the meander. On this guy, the flow is pretty much at right angles, southwest, northeast, right across the run line. As we come down across the shelf and out onto the slope, you see there's some indication of a counterclockwise flow here. That's probably associated with some amount of water that's entrained in the flow. This really is not a ring, warm core or otherwise. It's just a ring and flow. So we have the main body of the stream here, located somewhere around, say, 3730, crossing on, something on the order of nearly 300 miles down this track. There's 300 miles right here, 35 to 40. And you got very nearly 300 miles down to the main body of the stream, as per the 16th conditions. Get through the stream fairly short order, and we start our way down. We look to the west here. This is a cold core ring, and this ring has been a little bit of a nemesis for us over the last month or two, because it started out up here and it hung around for the better part of 2 months before it finally sort of broke free of the entrainment in the main body of the stream and has been drifting progressively to the west over the last week to two. Okay. As we continue down, there's very little in the way of adverse flow right down in here. So as we continue down, it isn't until we get down south of 35, somewhere around 68, 69, that we start running into another sort of cold core feature. It is a cold core, but it isn't anywhere near as well defined as the sky around at 70, center around 70. There is certainly some adverse current here, probably on the order of a knot or two. Wouldn't think it was much more than that looking at this right now. And then things are pretty clear when you get down to Bermuda. Now, most of you are not using the altimetry-based model for doing optimum routing, possibly in expedition, but many are playing with the Global Real-Time Ocean Forecast System from NOAA. And this is the temperature profile for today from them. And as I've said at council over the years, it's well to compare the model results to the satellite observations, the IR observations, as in Rutgers, the ones we begin. And when I do, I really have to wonder about the accuracy of this model. I'm not saying that it's completely inaccurate, but it doesn't look like it does a very good job of representing what we were seeing from the Rutgers images. So I'd really be careful in the application of this in your optimum routing routine. Another set of models, I call it Mercator, some people call it Mercator model. You can see it does a much better job of representing this is flow now, not temperature, but it does a much better job of representing the flow similar to the altimetry-based model. It's a little more dramatic in some ways, and in particular, this model is suggesting that, if you can see my cursor, you can see for the 16th come down more or less at right angles again, what we were seeing in the altimetry. That's okay. A little more abrupt, so you might suggest we might get more of a boost here. It's not quite as flat as the altimetry model. But the other one is for the 18th, this was the 16th, this is the 18th, there's a suggestion that they have a piece of significantly adverse flow close to the rum line coming back across the line. Doesn't show up quite so clearly on the 16th, but it's suggesting that if you were coming down the rum line, heading for a point maybe slightly west of the rum line to enter the main body of the stream, that you might run into some adverse currents. And here, in this case, fairly significant adverse currents, probably in excess of 3 knots. So that's it in a nutshell, what we're looking at on the stream today. We'll be looking again tomorrow, remembering that we've been concerned with how quick things can change. So even though you think you have the meanders pretty well in hand, it may change by tomorrow. I'm counseling taking a look at all of this source information tomorrow. And of course, what we can do with all this, where you can sail and the optimum route in terms of entering the stream and the rest, depends largely on the weather. So now I want to pass you over to Mike Fulmer. He's with the Ocean Prediction Center in the National Weather Service in Maryland to give us a little discussion of what the weather might be like. Mike?
Frank, thank you. I assume you can still hear me okay?
Loud and clear here.
Excellent. So hello, everybody. As Frank said, my name is Michael Fulmer. I am the Warning Coordination Meteorologist at the Ocean Prediction Center. Pardon me as I am in my car at this moment on a trip with my son, but wanted to give you guys a good quick brief of what's going on out here. So the elephant in the room, I assume everyone on here has heard that there was a brief tropical storm in the Gulf that I would say it made landfall. I don't know if it ever actually touched water, but the 35 knot winds were out over the water, therefore it was classified. And if I move over to the Hurricane Center site, you'll see that they have an area right in the zone that you're going to be traversing coming up over the next few days. The next 48 hours, the chance of development is 10%. So very low probability. The system is currently sitting over western Mississippi and will make its way over the next couple days to the east. And so I want to bring up our current surface chart. I say current, the 18Z one hasn't hit the web yet. This was 12Z this morning, and this low that was over Louisiana at the time, the 1004 millibar low, are the remnants of Arthur that will be making its way east. So you can see in the next 24 hours, we're not looking at anything to start your day tomorrow that would be of any concern. A warm front lifting to the north, pretty active flow to the north right now, keeping frontal passages relatively frequent, but you are building a lot of high pressure over the southern Atlantic. Ridging will be taking over there. So as far as the front's making any southward progress past the mid-Atlantic, it's not looking very likely. So if we go over to I want to show you real quick, just in case you weren't aware, we do provide sea state analyses. These are done every 6 hours. So this is the one that came out at 18 Zulu today, or 2 o'clock Eastern. And you can see pretty much a 1 to 2 meter waves affecting much of the area, some 2 meters off of Jersey and south of Long Island. But in general, not too bad out there today. When we go to our 24-hour chart, you'll see the 500 millibar chart, some troughing over eastern Canada that extends back into the U.S., with some ridging developing over the western Atlantic. As you go out to about 48 hours, you'll see that the troughing does progress east, picking up those remnants of Arthur that we were just talking about. and shunting everything off out into the Atlantic. So our surface charts look like this at 24 hours. This is based at 12Z tomorrow, the 19th. You'll see that Arthur's remnants right now are coming into South Carolina, North Carolina, making their way out into the Atlantic with a developing gale. So even if this does not get classified as a tropical cyclone moving forward, we are still expecting gales, and most of that will be on the south side of the low. And as we go to our 48-hour charts here, you'll see the gale force winds up to 40 knots are shown here as the system starts to increase in intensity at about 999 millibars. It's a brief increase in intensity as it goes over those nice warm waters out there to the south of the larger cyclone that is over eastern Canada at this time, heading into the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So in general, even again, I want to emphasize, even if it does not get reclassified as a tropical cyclone, we at the Ocean Prediction Center are expecting gale force winds in a relatively small area of the cyclone, focused on the southern quadrant, or even the southern semicircle, if you will, that quickly scoots out. So this is 12Z on the 20th, 12Z on Saturday, would be east of the area by 18Z, with high pressure building in from the eastern US at that time. So those are the main things that I have here. We do have the sea state charts just to give you an idea that seas during the time of the remnants of Arthur's passage could peak near 4.5 meters. Hopefully that stays well to the south of all of you, so you won't have to worry about those. But north of the Gulf Stream, the north wall, as Frank was talking about, seas generally 1 to 2 meters. To the south, they will be a little rougher at about 3 to 4 meters in that warmer water. So just please be aware of that. And I think for now, that's the majority of what I have. I was going to show, if there's just a minute here, the latest GFS forecast using tropical tidbits shows the system moving off the Carolina coast. It still has a closed isobar, which means that the GFS does consider this to be a system that will strengthen on the way out to sea, but only in a very brief window. And if we go to the Euro, just give me a second here. I'm trying to navigate in my car. You will notice that the European has had a more vigorous, sorry, it's loading here. I had loaded in the GFS and I made a mistake there by not loading this in faster. But anyway, the main idea here, because I don't want to waste too much time, is that the European has had a more vigorous cyclone exiting the coast, still not getting much above low-end gale force on its way out. So again, even if it's not reclassified, doesn't get enough convection, enough thunderstorm activity to become classified as a tropical cyclone, we are still expecting winds. You can see just in the precip here that we are expecting some stronger thunderstorms, but it's a very small low that will traverse the race path and hopefully get out of your way by early Saturday. So with that, that's all I have here. But please feel free to use our products here. If it's not a tropical cyclone, our site will give you where the warnings exist for the non-tropical types of gales, and we're not going to say any storm force during this time, but we're the ones that issue those warnings for the high seas, for the area that you're going over. So just keep that in mind whenever you're using your apps. We love apps as well. That you'll see, many times just raw model material. But if you want to know what the experts are thinking as far as to what extent that low might strengthen as it passes to your south, keep abreast of our maps. We update them daily and update our products daily to keep everyone informed out over the sea. All right. And with that, thank you very much for your time. And if there are any questions, I guess Frank and I are here.
So far, we don't have any. Do you have any questions for him? Are you good? Okay. Frank, then I guess we can wrap it up. We have no questions.
Yeah, we're standing by if there are any questions on either the stream or weather. I'm sure there are questions. Because
what is nice, Frank, is just, while we wait to see is, once that low gets out of the way, it helps to pull the baroclinic zone. So where the active weather is, along that zone where the low is going to travel, those fronts will be pulled south, potentially even getting south of Bermuda for a period of time. So in the wake of that low passing, you will have a period of west-northwest winds, with fair conditions as far as sky cover. Not expecting a lot of wind behind that low. It's all to the south.
Yeah, there was some suggestion that there's going to be a bit of a dead period come Sunday in light air.
Yes,
and,
yes.
And the wind's even going southeast on us as we're coming down.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're still in very fast flow for the fact that it's June. This is still a relatively active pattern, but the subtropical highs are starting to gain dominance now.
There's two questions or one's a statement. Seems like we'll be fast enough to be in the middle of the low. I wasn't clear on the precise track of the low, but it's you're talking about it being more or less out of the way by tomorrow afternoon?
It looks like the low will largely be out of the way after 12Z on Saturday. So right now, you have a slower European and you have a faster GFS. And so right now we are in the, going to be looking at more of a mid-range. That's how typically the OPC forecasters will look at the low, and also the way the Hurricane Center adopts it when they're looking at it for any tropical development. So you're kind of averaging out the speed there. The GFS has a bias of being fast and the European has a bias of being slow. So right now that 12Z position on the 20th has a pretty, I'd call it like a medium confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to look at the map to see what the latitude of the run across is. Is it on the order of 35 north?
Let me look really quick. I apologize.
Please.
Here.
Yeah.
So yes, the low is going to pass. It's going to cross your path roughly about between 36 and 38 north. That's how we have it forecasted at this moment. And quite honestly, yeah, even looking at a 12Z map, the low is past the track by 12Z. So it looks like it's going to cross the path of the regatta, probably in the between the 6 and 12Z. If I were to pin down more of a time, probably in the 8 to 9Z time. So hopefully it continues on that speed. It's looking like that remnant is going to hook up with a piece of the subtropical jet and should be whisked out at a decent clip.
So Hugh, are you still thinking that temptation might get down to that, get down into the low?
Yeah. You had a question, how will the low affect the Gulf Stream? See that?
Yeah, well, of course, the Gulf Stream is influenced to some extent by wind.
Yes.
It's the primary factor of driving it is the wind. And if you get 30 knots of wind, you can get a knot of current. So there's that. The more significant one in my department is the sea state. Wind running against the current can really produce uncomfortable conditions. And again, I'm not exactly sure of the location. It sounds like it's a bit south of the main body of the stream, as I was showing you, meaning that the winds are likely to be northeast, north to northeast, coming across the stream. And if it's really northeast, that can produce significant sea state effect.
But right now on the north side of the low, Frank, I mean, this is one of those situations where much of the action is to the south of the low. So on the north side, you might have 20 knots, say, of flow against the stream, but the much stronger 30 plus knots look to be in the warm water south of the stream.
Okay.
As of this telling you.
Right. So the sea state is certainly something to keep an eye on and consider in your routing. Difference between, Michael, here's one for you. What's the difference between the AI GFS and GFS forecast?
All right. Well, the GFS model itself is what we call a dynamic model, meaning it has a lot of physics built into it. It took a lot of years to build up all this physics, to build up a confidence in how those physics create the weather in the model that we interpret for the rest of you. AI version of GFS takes GFS forecasts and does almost like a machine learning where you run multiple rounds of the model. And the AI part is that you don't have any actual physics in that model. It's using what already exists and then building it based on learned behavior. So based on when previous forecasts, how they have performed versus the current forecast, and it creates more of a trend in time. That's why if you look at the AI GFS or any AI models, the fields look a lot smoother, and it's because they're coarser, but it gives you a quick look and a faster run of the model to get you the data. So
Right.
I'm trying not to get too in the weeds on you on that.
Well, okay. There was a question about how light will the wind come? How conditions be north of the low after it passes? And I guess that depends a lot on the larger low, which is migrating off to the north and east. And the gradient winds that we saw midday today would suggest that the winds are going to get pretty light for a period of time. And
Yes.
And pretty light is like 5 to 10, and 3 or less.
It looks like, based on our charts, we're looking at winds of about, after the low passes, about 10 to 15 knots north of the.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I was looking at even less.
It looks like any of the stronger winds, as the system pulls north and east, they'll increase east of your location. But for the locations we're talking about, I'm even looking at the 24-hour, meaning this would be tomorrow. Yeah, you have southwesterly at about 15. You got some 20 knots well to the east of you. As you approach the stream, there could be some winds up to about 20, 25 knots. Just be aware of that because you do have that dual cyclone. You have the one going by to the north, as I think you just mentioned, Frank, as well as the one to the south.
So I guess this is what I was looking at was a little later in the whole thing was the problem. So for the moment, if I understand you correctly, the what is it, Arthur, is really a little perturbation running along the bottom of our big low, which is up to the northeast in Canada.
Think of it as the big low is acting like a scoop right now, and it's helping to clear out those remnants.
Right.
I mean, conditions could be favorable because you're in a decent outflow pattern of the larger cyclone, where I think that's why the Hurricane Center is concerned it could come back and regenerate into a tropical cyclone. Still would be south-based, southern weighted, I should say. There's a lot of shear out there, so you're not going to be getting some big, powerful tropical cyclone, even if it did come back to life.
The AIGFS. What's the most trusted public source of stream data during the race? All of the above.
Yeah.
A few years ago, it would have been very limited, but I'm thinking now that for many of us, Starlink has really changed the game, so that you have everything on the links at offshore that we have here. And as you know, looking at the list of links that I've provided over the years, I certainly look at the Rutgers site for IR imagery. It's good coverage over the day, many images. They try to get many pieces of data and put it up there for you. There are problems with cloud cover, and then there is the altimetry. Just a parenthetical on the altimetry. When you click on the link for the altimetry that I provided you, you will get a link across the top of the page and some few words, blank screen. You've got to go into that link and edit it, bring it up to 23, from 2023 to 2026, the month, the day, that sort of thing. Otherwise, if you just click on retrieve the GIF file, you're going to be getting a 2023 image. Straightforward, very easy to do. And then, of course, we hope, I hope, that you've done a little bit of homework beforehand, realizing that prior planning makes a big difference. And so you have a sense of what it is you want to get, the one or two sources that you've looked at and you have some confidence in. Limit it down. So that's the public sources. I would be looking at the altimetry, and I'd be looking at Rutgers. Why are all the models for the faster boats encouraging going east of the rum line against the adverse current? That's a good question, and I'm not sure that I can answer it. You might ask some of the folks that are really talking about it. I think what I saw from some of the weather services this morning is that they're looking off down the road to seeing what a wind shift means on day 3 or 4. And sort of setting yourself up, taking a few lumps right now in order to set yourself up for a better entry to Bermuda. I'm not going to tell you what my personal bias is. Number one, I don't like to go east because 9 times out of 10 you end up beating up to Bermuda. Number one, and then number two, I don't like going against adverse currents if we can avoid them. So Tenacious looks like they're going to be down. They think they're going to be down in the storm in 12 hours.
Temptation.
Yeah, Temptation. Sorry. We're terrified of the potential sea state and unsure where to go to get out of it. What can I say? It's certainly has to be taken into consideration when you're looking at risk, personal risk on the boat, what the boat is, what the crew is, that sort of thing. You can go slow because it looks like it's going to be out of here pretty quick.
The URL for altimetry not showing current that comes up from 2023.
I hope David at Tabor, I think it's Tabor, just heard what I said about the URL, because you've got to edit the URL. Just click on it. You'll see what happens.
I think that's about it. We can probably wrap up.
Okay?
Go ahead and. I think that's good.
Someone says they're sending them east, far enough east to try to catch the positive current associated with that braking feature on the meander. It's unlikely to really pay, he says. I can't argue with that.
We can wrap it up.
That's the bottom line of questions that I have here.
Okay.
Well, we'll be around. I'm on Blue Skies down at the Newport Yachting Center. If there are questions in the morning, happy to answer what I can. And of course, we're on the air here.
How do we edit this URL to get current data?
You go up to the URL
Yeah.
and you put your cursor on the latitude, for example, and click. And you will find that a second URL comes up right below it, and that the one you're working on goes blue. And when you go click again, you can edit that blue URL. And so you go along and you make the latitude from 35, make it 30. You go along and you make the year from 2023 to 2026. You make the month 06, you make the day 18, and then you go down to that second URL and click on it. And the screen will be blank, and you go over and it says retrieve GIF, the GIF. And you click on that, and there is the 18th of June, 2026. Okay? Thanks very much. Have fun, enjoy, stay aboard.